What I'm about to share with you are the dark secrets of Jeffrey Epstein's ranch in Stanley, Santa Fe County, New Mexico. Some really dreadful things happen there. The cover-ups, the abuse. Why wasn't that address subject to any federal subpoenas? What went down there? We're going to cover it all on this episode right here. This is going to blow your mind. So Jeffrey Epstein had a ranch that occupied about 7,500 to 10,000 acres in a small city called Stanley, a county called Santa Fe in New Mexico. Okay. And in 2019, when the local district attorney wanted to do an investigation into child sex trafficking and abuse of that ranch, they were specifically told by the feds, do not go into that ranch. We've got it. We will be handling the investigation. But the feds did nothing. We now have the emails of what was going on with the federal prosecutors in the Trump regime, and they said, we are not issuing subpoenas. We're staying away from that Santa Fe ranch. Now, the ranch was called the Zorro Ranch. It was owned by a trust that Jeffrey Epstein owned called the Zorro Trust. Epstein acquired this ranch in 1993. Obviously, you now know that Epstein died in 2019. The ranch was eventually sold to some other entity in 2023. And in 2019, after Epstein was arrested for the second time by the feds, there was lots of questions about that ranch. Because there was a lot more, if you could even wrap your head around this, sexual abuse, sexual torture, and other things going on in that ranch than even the island, than even Palm Beach, than even his house in New York City. The ranch, especially based on its proximity to Mexico, because it was in New Mexico, its proximity to Mexico was a site of sex trafficking. We now know from hearing Jane Doe's stories, torture was taking place in there. So why the hell wasn't it subject to a subpoena? And if you go back to a July 2019 article by the New York Times, they also talk about how that's an area that Jeffrey Epstein was creating in order to procreate thousands of other Epsteins. He had his own kind of vision of basically getting all of these girls that he was sex trafficking pregnant and to procreate all these future Jeffrey Epsteins to inhabit. That was happening in Santa Fe, in New Mexico. Let's just go through some of the email findings that we have here. And there are just some things that'll blow your mind. Like the ranch is owned by the Zorro Trust, which was Epstein's trust. In 2008, the Zorro Trust won a lottery in Oklahoma, and it's possible that's the same Zorro Trust. And then there are emails with Epstein talking about having girls use the lottery ticket and the lottery numbers that he wanted to give them. Was that one of the ways he made this money? Look, let's just go through the emails, okay? This is a December 20th, 2019 email. JE Estate meeting. And as Aaron Parnas writes, this email confirms that prosecutors never searched Jeffrey Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. We know that's where a lot of the abuse happened. So evidence was intentionally never collected by federal prosecutors. Here's the email from prosecutors to each other. We're not yet exactly sure what our ability is to provide to the trustees what is effectively discovery in a now defunct criminal case against Epstein himself. That said, I can convey that we did produce to defense counsel detailed search warrants in connection with the New York property. Perhaps you would be able to obtain those from Epstein's criminal defense counsel. In particular, I believe what you're looking for would be especially at Then it lists Bates number, page range, USAO 4381 to 4445, but potentially also USAO 2662 to 4380. Though I note that a handful of those pages were marked as confidential under a protective order as set forth in the discovery letter sent to counsel on July 31st, 2019. We will also review the status of the search warrant return with respect to the island property, and we have not searched the New Mexico property, and I hope this is useful in the interim. Separately, I conveyed your request for a meeting to discuss the possibility of resolving the government's potential forfeiture claims. So they're giving a Bates range, various pages of documents to look at. This is December 2019. Epstein died August of 2019. As you now know, there was a press release about Epstein's death that was drafted August 9th of 2019. He died August 10th, 2019. Then there was a second press release that added the words, died by apparent suicide. Then this is December 20th of 2019. And you're seeing that they're saying there has been no search of the New Mexico ranch. Why would there be no search? But let's go back. September 30th, 2009. This email got copied to FBI Director Mueller. He was the FBI director then, where it says that Epstein's Zorro Trust won an $80 million lottery ticket in New Mexico. It was actually Oklahoma. And that he has a ranch near the U.S.-Mexico border where trafficked children are routed prior to being dispersed to the East Coast. This was just a letter and a tip. Some interesting facts that should be passed to the investigative agents on the Epstein case. I will also copy Directive Mueller. Zorro Trust belonging to Epstein won an $80 million lottery ticket in New Mexico. Zorro Ranch belonging to Epstein sits close to the U.S.-Mexican border, where most trafficked children are routed prior to being dispersed to the East Coast. Several high-ranking officials and friends of Epstein have confirmed that he has sexual relations with underage minors at that facility. Both Ghislaine Maxwell and were served last week. 2 key witnesses on Epstein's camp. Thank you. And so let's take a look, though, when there was an FBI investigation that was starting to take place at the ranch with the house managers at that ranch. Again, just a reminder, Epstein purchases this ranch in 1993 using a vehicle called the Zorro Trust, and he calls this ranch in New Mexico the Zorro Ranch. It's on 7,500 to 10,000 acres of land. So this is sent July 19th of 2019. And here's what it says. And this is so this one is a tip, and then I'm going to show you the next one, which was actually February 13th of 2007. So this is a different one. This is a tip from a retired New Mexico State police officer. The next one from 2007 is from the house managers. Let me read this for you. July 19th, 2019. Here's what it says. This is 2019. On July 19, 2019 at 7:48 p.m., retired New Mexico State police officer, and it's redacted, the telephone number is redacted, other personal identifiers refused, called the FBI National Threat Operations Center regarding information related to Epstein. This person provided the following information. This person lives in a neighborhood of a property owned by Jeffrey Epstein. The property, which is on Zorro Ranch Road, Stanley, New Mexico, has recently had a large barn constructed. The barn is suspicious as there is a garage door that appears to be a sally port, and there is a chimney. This person who's making this tip, this retired police officer, is concerned that the property could have potentially have an incinerator concealed within the barn. An old 1970s mobile home was recently put right behind the barn, which this retired police officer believes does not follow Santa Fe County regulations. There have been a lot of high-profile people seen frequenting the property. This retired police officer has heard rumors that the property was used for recruiting girls to visit with Epstein, but he has no factual evidence to support this claim. This police officer heard rumors that girls from Albuquerque and the Moriarty area were recruited for Epstein. This person patrolled this area for 15 years before he retired. The property was owned previously by the governor of New Mexico, but the property was sold to Epstein before the governor's passing. guessing the property that so-and-so is reporting is about 3 miles away from Epstein's mansion. The retired cop explained that there is a lot of security for the properties, including cameras, sally ports, and other security measures. And this person explained that the barn was constructed doesn't look like a barn you would use for ranching. This person wanted to report the information to the FBI because he's concerned that evidence could be destroyed here. Again, that's July 19th, 2019. That's before Epstein dies. This is the one I wanted to show you before then from the house managers. And you'll see these house managers were speaking with the FBI back on February 13th of 2017. Then they get a call from someone and then they shut down speaking with the FBI. But the FBI was suspicious that things were going down in this ranch, sex trafficking, around this period of time, again, in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. So these house managers, it gives, their names are redacted, and it says the following. New Mexico was interviewed at the guest house of Zorro Ranch, Stanley, New Mexico. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, so-and-so provided the following information. Person X and Person Y, his wife, have been managing the Zorro Ranch for Jeffrey Epstein for approximately 4 years. There are 5 to 6 full-time staff at the ranch, as well as some seasonal employees. Epstein spends approximately 50 days a year at the ranch during his downtime, mostly in the summer. In the summer, Epstein generally spends 2 to 3 weeks time at the ranch and is shuttled around by helicopter. The last time Epstein was at the ranch was Thanksgiving 2006. Epstein normally flies into either Albuquerque or Santa Fe and is driven to the ranch. Very little notice is given before Epstein flies to the ranch, usually 24 to 48 hours. Epstein usually brings his personal assistant, his bodyguard, friends, personal trainer, and sometimes his masseuse. The masseuse are not normally flown to the ranch, but are hired by, this is redacted, keeps financial records, and usually arranges the massages. The names of the masseuses are obtained from 10,000 Waves Day Spa or by referrals. This redacted name said that the masseuses are all checked out and they are professionals who are licensed massage therapists. There have been approximately 5 different therapists used in the past. These redacted names said that they could provide the names of therapists used and the amounts paid to them, but that we needed to go to the office to meet her. Upon arriving at the office and greeting so-and-so, they received a phone call from the main office that told him they were no longer allowed to speak with us. The interview immediately ended.
Most of us are numb to it now, but wow, this has been a wild ride. AI is coming for jobs, tariffs and tax fights are shaking things up, and the market is swinging like it's had way too much coffee. It feels like near spastic economic uncertainty is just the new normal. And honestly, that's forced a lot of us to take matters into our own hands when it comes to protecting ourselves and our families. One of the smartest ways to do that is with better life insurance. I hate to say it, but if your policy is through work, you're probably underinsured, overpaying, and underprotected. That's why I'm looking at a new life insurance policy with SelectQuote. For over 40 years, SelectQuote has been one of the most trusted brokers in insurance, helping more than 2 million Americans secure over $700 billion in coverage. Their mission is simple: to find you the right insurance policy for your unique needs. They shop, you save. Unlike one-size-fits-all companies, SelectQuote's licensed agents work for you. In as little as 15 minutes, they compare policies from top-rated carriers to find you the best fit for your health and your budget. And they work for you for free. No medical exam, no problem. Same-day coverage up to $2 million. Pre-existing conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease, they've got options for that too. Life insurance is never cheaper than it is today. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at selectquote.com/Meidas. Save more than 50% on term life insurance at selectquote.com/Meidas today to get started. That's selectquote.com/Meidas, MEIDAS.
Now let me share this with you. November 21st of 2019. Here's a message that shows up on the Epstein files. This is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person who has been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro Ranch. The material below is taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damaging about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know that somewhere in the hills outside of Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G? Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. Here are the video footage of Jeffrey Epstein. Then it says the certain types of seconds. 13 minutes, 57 seconds, sex video with minor. 27 minutes, 3 seconds, threesome videos. Underage, whatever videos. Matthew Melwood videos. Girl from Bay Area suicide attempt confession to Madam G. Please arrange 1 Bitcoin by 6 p.m. Eastern today to the Bitcoin wallet address so-and-so. By the way, here was the article from August 25th, 2008. Trust claims lottery work $85 million. Oklahoma City. A trust has claimed winning $85 million Powerball tickets sold in Altus, the Oklahoma Lottery said Monday. A group called the Zorro Trust came forward and requested the lump sum payment option, yielding $29.3 million after taxes for the winning ticket in the July 2nd drawing. The ticket was purchased at a Stripes convenience store in Altus. So this Zorro Trust, I'm not sure if it's the exact same trust, but there are emails saying the trust was the one who won the lottery, won an $85 million lottery, but taking it as a lump sum, they took $29 million. Could it have been that Epstein's connections with government officials gave him the data to win lotteries and make money? I don't know, but I think this is highly, highly suspicious. There's been mixed reporting on if Zorro Trust was Epstein's trust there, or if this was just another trust. But if you look through these emails, there are emails like this from Epstein. I'll tell you, these are the numbers to choose to win the lottery. You tell me you'd rather choose your own. If you prefer to do it your way over winning, it's okay. It's your life. Lots of lottery talk by Epstein. Here are just some more photos of the ranch. You can see right here, the 7,500, 10,000 acres. You see how vast it is right here. Let's take a look right here at this next email right here. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to others, and they talk about meeting with, this is August 5th, 2015. He's sending a message about having a meeting that's going to be taking place at the ranch. And he says, Peter Thiel might be coming to the ranch this weekend. You're welcome as well. It's a pretty unusual and private place. So Epstein's inviting people, to this ranch over there. Here's the New York Times article, July 31st, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein hoped to seed the human race with his DNA. Epstein, the wealthy financier who's accused of sex trafficking, had an unusual dream. He hoped to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating children, at his vast New Mexico ranch. And he confided to scientists and others about his scheme, and that would take place at the ranch. So why would there not be a subpoena, and why would the Trump first administration not go to the ranch? I mean, that makes absolutely no sense at all. Let's keep going through some of these messages right here. This right here is from the New Zealand Herald, and it talks about that couple that was managing, or at least for a period of time, Epstein's ranch. A New Zealand couple who worked for Jeffrey Epstein may face a potential subpoena to appear before a truth commission into the late sex offender's activities, a New Mexico lawmaker says. Among the millions of files related to the child sex offender unsealed this month were revelations showing New Zealand couple Bryce and Karen Gordon managed his properties during the period prosecutors say he sex trafficked women and girls. The couple are not accused of any offending through their association with Epstein. So that's titled New Mexico Lawmakers May Subpoena New Zealand Couple Bryce and Karen Gordon over Epstein Links. This is from the local Los Alamos Daily Post. And this talks about this truth commission that's now being set up in New Mexico. Now, one of the things that Epstein was able to use this Zorro Trust and this property for is they did not require him in New Mexico after he pled guilty the first time around in 2007, 2008 to child prostitution. He didn't have to register as a sex offender in New Mexico based on some technicalities in the law and his relationship with the government in New Mexico at that time. So he was shielded from having to report himself as a sex offender in New Mexico. Let's just take a look at what this is saying, though, about this Truth Commission. A possible Truth Commission or proposed Truth Commission to investigate possible crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein at a Santa Fe County ranch could, state lawmakers hope, make New Mexico a leader in seeking accountability. House Joint Resolution 1 is headed to the House floor after winning unanimous approval from the House Judiciary Committee on Saturday and the House Government Elections and Indian Affairs Committee a week ago. State Representative Andrea Romero from Santa Fe, one of the sponsors of the resolution, said it proposed creating a bipartisan fact-finding mission aimed at getting the story straight, rather than investigating specific claims of sex trafficking or other crimes alleged to have occurred at the Zorro Ranch. It would empower a special subcommittee of state house members to conduct hearings, issue subpoenas, and compel the attendance of witnesses, and the committee would deliver a final report on December 31st. Lawmakers expressed hope that New Mexico could pursue accountability here. And it goes on to talk about how after Epstein died in 2019 and what officials said was a suicide, which we know is likely not what happened, Matthew McQueen, this Democrat from Galstillo, whose district encompasses the Zorro Ranch, introduced a bill to close loopholes requiring people convicted of sex offenses out of state to register in New Mexico, because there was a loophole for technical reasons that Epstein didn't have to register. The bill failed to pass, but McQueen said it was still a good idea to revive the proposal. I mean, that's pretty shocking, right? That this was introduced, but the loophole is still allowed to exist in New Mexico for people to hide if they're registered sex offenders. As he says, my thought was we don't want offenders to look around the country and think, where can I move, and no longer have to be treated in this way. And so that's pretty shocking to me that New Mexico still has this loophole. Here's how The Guardian describes the Zorro Ranch. The Zorro Ranch was a place where powerful men allegedly visited, including former governors of the state. It was also the proposed setting for Epstein's plan to spread his DNA across the human race. Multiple women have said that Epstein abused them at this New Mexico ranch. Among them is Jane Doe, the first accuser to testify at Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial. Jane said that she met Epstein in 1994 while attending the Interlochen Center of the Arts, an esteemed youth arts camp in Michigan. When Maxwell and Epstein learned that Jane was from Palm Beach, they requested her mother's phone number, she testified. Jane provided with her mom's contact information. When Jane returned, she and her mother were invited to tea. She started spending time with Epstein and Maxwell. Epstein started to sexually abuse Jane Doe when she was 14. She traveled with Epstein and Maxwell to New York City and New Mexico. I just remember someone at one point just came into my room and said, Jeffrey wants to see you, and then escorted me to see him. She said, I just, as usual, felt like my heart sink into my stomach, I did not want to go see him, said Jane, who recalled being 15 or 16 at the time. I just remember being led to his bedroom and, the same thing would happen. Annie Farmer, the fourth accuser to testify at Maxwell's sex trafficking trial, said the British socialite gave her a nude massage at the ranch when she was 16. During Maxwell's trial, Farmer testified that the morning after this encounter with Maxwell, Epstein lumbered into bed with her and said he wanted to cuddle, and she felt kind of frozen. He pressed his body into me, she said. Farmer testified that she told Epstein she needed the restroom as to escape. Another woman identified as Jane Doe said she met Epstein during a school trip to New York City. At Epstein's townhouse, his secretary allegedly took photos of her and told her that Epstein really wanted to meet her. A few weeks later, Jane Doe alleged that the secretary emailed that Epstein was excited by the photos and that he was interested in her. Jane Doe and her sister were invited to a magic show in Las Vegas and then Epstein's ranch. After the magic show, they flew to Epstein's plane to New Mexico. He was there along with several young girls at the ranch. Jane Doe said she was summoned to the main house, brought to Epstein's bedroom. There, she alleged Epstein was wearing a bathrobe and demanded a massage. She felt that Epstein wanted to participate in sexual activity, but she did not know what it was. Epstein seemed to get get frustrated as a result. Epstein assaulted her with a device, she said in court papers. Virginia Giuffre, she says that she was sexually assaulted at the ranch as well. Giuffre said that Epstein trafficked her to other powerful men and politicians in New Mexico at the time. And so you have all of that going down. And then, as I mentioned, you had New Mexico's attorney general and local officials wanted to investigate, and we have the documents here. They wanted to investigate Epstein in 2019, but they were prohibited from doing so by the feds. And so you have some of these emails saying that they reached out, that they wanted to, let's go through these emails right here. Here, pull them up. It says over here, follow-up call. You can call my desk. These are prosecutors writing to each other. Thank you for your response and the additional information about the New Mexico Attorney General's office. We look forward to speaking to you on Thursday. Then it goes on to talk about it. As a preview in response to this email, we, the federal prosecutors from New York, we spoke with the New Mexico Attorney General's office back in July 2019. In essence, they agreed to cease any investigation into sex trafficking and share whatever they had gathered to date regarding sex trafficking activity with their office. We agreed that they were free to proceed with whatever other investigation unrelated to sex trafficking they may have concerning Epstein, and told them that at the conclusion of our case, we would pass along any information we may have gathered about state crimes that were committed in their jurisdiction. We have not communicated with anyone from the New Mexico Attorney General's office since that conversation in July 2019. And what's interesting there is that one is signed by Maureen, who I believe to be Maureen Comey, James Comey. So James Comey's daughter, who prosecuted Ghislaine and who prosecuted was going to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein. So I don't understand why they stopped New Mexico from doing the sex trafficking investigation when then they did not do any subpoena or investigation into New Mexico, into the ranch where all this stuff is going down. So I'm just putting that out there for you and all this information out there. Do with it what you want, but that's the data. And I'm just reading what the emails saying what we know about that ranch. And everyone talks about the island and everybody talks about New York and Palm Beach. And by the way, Jane Doe said that Epstein introduced her to Trump and said, what do you think about this one? That was part of the testimony in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial as well. So anyway, there you have all of that. Dark. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers, and thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast for new updates every single day.